Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is celebrated singer-songwriter and lawyer Desiree Dorion. Desiree, who is a member of the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, is a three-time Manitoba Country Music Award winner and a Juno Award nominee. She recently released her 7th studio album, Remember Your Name. Desiree, thanks so much for being with us on the show this week, and congrats on the new album.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You've been super busy. Thanks for doing the show. You're here and taking off again and just got back. Shows in BC, Alberta, all over. Playing live shows, something you look forward to?
Yes. I can honestly say more now than I did previously. I really had a lot of performance anxiety for many years, and I feel like I'm gelling with a good group of guys on stage with me, and that people that I trust that are going to have my back if I'm messing up, and so I'm really enjoying it a lot more now than I have in the past.
That must have been tough given how important live music is for a career in the business.
Yeah, it was tough. There were a number of years where, I'd literally have to isolate myself before a show and do little things to prepare myself to help calm my nerves a bit, just to get out there. And yeah, it used to be my least favorite thing to do, in all honesty.
No, that's too bad. Well, glad things have turned around, because we're going to hear a little performance later in the show. I'm going to talk about the new album, Remember Your Name, right away, but just curious, how you're finding it out on the road. There was a big rush for concerts, it seemed, post-pandemic, but lately we've seen even huge musical acts have to cancel tours altogether because they're just not getting the people out. Well, how are you feeling about the crowds and doing the live shows?
I feel like I've done a really good job as an independent artist nurturing my fan base. And we did a string of shows out in Ontario in June, I believe it was, and one of them was sold out. And that's the second year in a row where that particular town came out and supported my music. And I think that I really try and connect with my fan base. People message me on Instagram and Facebook regularly, and I do my best to respond. I don't always get it right, but I do my best to respond and be someone who is accessible to folks that are buying and listening to my music, and that's been really helpful. I mean, not every show is a success, and you have to take some of the wins with the losses.
Well, let's talk about Remember Your Name. On Apple Music, or on one of the streaming services I use, I should say, I noticed that all of your previous albums are classified as country, but the single Ghosts is classified on that streaming service as alternative folk. Just wondering, is this a bit of a new direction, the new album for you?
The album, I would say, is a marked departure from what I've done in the past, for sure. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think artistically, I've grown as a lyricist, as someone who wants to tell more honest stories, and stories that are, not going to necessarily fit in the box of mainstream country music. And I felt like I had been trying to squeeze myself into this box that wasn't always welcoming me or allowing me to exist there. And now I just feel like I'm at a point in my career where I can write what I want to write and tell the stories that I want to tell, and I don't need to be confined by those strict parameters anymore of mainstream country. So that's really liberating, but also, just realistically, as a middle-aged woman, I mean, mainstream country music is looking for embryos. Right. And that's another box that I don't fit into anymore. And so I just think that if I wanted to, or I thought if I wanted to preserve my career and maintain some longevity in doing what I love to do, that I would have to step outside of that zone and explore a different genre and a different market.
Well, it sounds like you're certainly embracing it. I just was going to ask, were you hesitant to try out a new genre at a time when, we've got Beyonce and Post Malone and Eminem even teaming up with Jelly Roll. Everybody's trying to countrify themselves right now. Hesitant to kind of move out of that genre a bit?
No, I was more excited, to be honest. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't nervous about it. But I was more excited than I was nervous. I worked with Joel Shorts this time around, who is an incredible producer, and just had some really great people in studio, you know, and people coming together to collaborate with a common goal of, you know, helping me walk into this new world. And I felt really supported throughout the process, and I feel like it was the right decision to make for me at this time. I'm also, you know, paying attention to what's happening in the U.S. with Americana music. You know, guys like Jason Isbell or Morgan Wade has been making waves, and there's a lot of Americana music that we're seeing infiltrating into mainstream country, and so I think it's a good time.
I think my two favorite albums this year, both Americana genre, when I look at Waxahachie and MJ Lenderman. But do genres, do you think, even matter as much as they used to anymore?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because everything is so accessible now. You know, if you literally can listen to whatever you want to listen to at your fingertips on your phone, using whatever streaming platform you want to use. And I think that most people, you know, for me growing up, I think about having one radio station to listen to, and not having the accessibility that we have nowadays. And I know for myself, when I go on a drive, if I'm driving from Dauphin to Winnipeg or wherever I might be driving to, I'm not just listening to one genre of music. I'm flipping back and forth on my phone between, you know, whatever music is I'm feeling like listening to that day. So I think that the genres are a little less relevant.
For sure. Remember, if people don't know already from the way we're talking, that you're a very busy person. This is your 7th studio album and comes just 1 year after your last album. And sounds like from the press material and the songs that I've heard that you might have been going through some things during the writing and recording of this album.
Yeah, there might have been a little transition happening in my personal life that trickled into my professional life. And, you know, that is definitely the theme of this record. It's, you know, a theme of moving on, of self-discovery, rediscovery, grieving, loss. And, yeah, I really just wanted this record to sonically be very stripped down, to be very vulnerable. Lyrically, I wanted it to be honest and vulnerable, open, transparent, and but hopeful.
You know, I think that people, when they see the album cover as well, might think that there's some vulnerabilities to the album. But again, the press material mentions that there's like, this is songwriting has been your medicine. Has that always been the case for you, singing,
Yes.
songwriting?
Yeah, absolutely. I really have always believed that music is medicine, but for me, songwriting has been the greatest therapist of my life. You know, there are songs or poems or stories that I've written that I've never shared with anybody that will probably go with me to my grave. You know, and the stuff that, you know, certainly in the last year that I've been writing has been the most honest and heartfelt stuff that I think I've ever written. And it's been both really scary, but also really liberating. And the writing for me has really been something that I've been able to lean on and to turn to when, you know, I didn't know if I was what this new world would look like for me. And so it's been fundamental in my growth, both personally and professionally.
As someone who's grown up in Dauphin, who thinks that it's better than Portage la Prairie, you know,
said that, not me.
I did not say that. I've never been. But one place I've never also been was Dauphin Country Music Festival,
What?
which I know.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
if I was going to go to Dauphin,
Those are fighting
that'd be
words.
the only time. But you know, growing up near this music festival that's pretty well known here in this country, gets huge acts from the U.S. as well. Is music something that's always been there for you in your life, or your family growing up?
Yeah, I mean, that festival started in 1990, so I would have been 7 years old, and I moved to Dauphin when I was 5. So I've been going to that festival since I was a little baby, like a toddler. And I remember, you know, seeing Waylon Jennings on stage. I remember watching Reba McEntire and, you know, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and I remember just being in awe of their ability to command an audience and to command the stage and, you know, to tell the stories. And I always listened to the stories. And then when the festival wasn't on, you know, as I got older, I lived a mile from that site. I would jump on my bike I would tell my mom I'm going for a bike ride, and I would ride to the festival site, and I would ditch my bike in the ditch. I would park it in the ditch, and I would hop the fence and climb backstage and, pretend. I would literally pretend to hang my jacket on the hooks in the dressing rooms and to put my boots. I was wearing probably flip-flops or something at the time because it was summertime, but I would put it underneath the ledge, and I would look in the mirror and pretend to do my makeup and fix my hair, and then I would jump out on stage, and it's a huge amphitheater, and I would run around on the stage and pretend to sing to an audience full of people, but it was of course empty. And it was pretty cool when that came to life in 2014 for me, and I got to perform, and people showed up. And I told that story, and I remember like having a lump in my throat and choking back tears because I couldn't believe that was something that I had been manifesting since I was a little girl.
Yeah, that is awesome. Great memory, and congrats on living out that dream. Desiree, more to talk about here. We just have to step aside for a quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face. Stick around. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is singer, songwriter, and lawyer Desiree Dorion. Desiree, you're a 3-time Manitoba Country Music Award winner. You've just been nominated again for Female Artist of the Year. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
That is one stacked category, that one this year. Many of the people in that category are Indigenous women. Wondering how you describe the country music scene in Canada for Indigenous women.
It's not good. It's not good at all. I mean, it's actually abysmal. There is almost zero representation in mainstream media when it comes to Indigenous women. There was a study that was just released by Dr. Jada Watson, who's a musicologist with the University of Ottawa. It's called Share the Air, and it confirms that virtually almost 0% of voices on the air at country radio are Indigenous women. And so, the little sliver of mainstream success that I've been able to carve out for myself has quite literally been a statistical miracle.
Right.
Yeah.
I mentioned this because you're playing some shows in Nashville, and we're going to get into that shortly. But, the country music mecca that we are well known for not really supporting women and women of color in particular. A story last year called Representation of Women on the Country Music Charts is a Sad Song. Do you think that, or what are some of the ways that we can support Indigenous female artists in this country?
Book us for shows. I mean, that's first and foremost, but there are ways that would cost nothing. Streaming music, stream our music, check us out, share our posts on social media, support us, buy tickets to our shows. All of those things go a long way to, I guess putting your money where your mouth is, that representation matters, that we're just as talented as the non-Indigenous women in our country, and we're just as entitled to take up that space as our non-Indigenous counterparts.
What do you think? As I mentioned, I think the majority of the women in the country music female category for Manitoba are Indigenous. What is it about country music in Manitoba?
I think that we had a really good training ground with the Indigenous Music Development Program at Manitoba Music. That program was spearheaded by Alan Greyeyes for many years, and he worked tirelessly at teaching us the back end of the music world. And so we learned very early on in our careers about the business fundamentals of running a career in music and maintaining a career in music. And I think for most of us, that's been crucial to our success.
As somebody who's been in the business for a couple of decades, we'll say now, have you seen changes in the way that there is for representation and for females in the industry?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I don't think it's enough yet. There's a lot of work happening with the CRTC that is involving Indigenous inclusion or Indigenous equity, I would say. And, there's a lot of there's little piecemeal things that we're seeing, even with the Canadian Country Music Association. You know, they hired me back in 2021 to host a series called the Achimatack series, which was a series, an online series, because of course it was during COVID, that allowed me to talk to Indigenous industry folks and artists, and that was shared on all of their social platforms. And they've done a little bit of work in terms of including Indigenous women periodically in some of their programming. But I still think there's a long way to go.
What would you like to see? You know, you talked about booking and streaming, things like that. But like you say, the back end stuff that you might not be thinking about at all. What are some of the things, what would be some of the advice you would give to up and comers?
First and foremost, hone your craft. Like, you have to be good at what you're doing. If you're not good at what you're doing, then, you know, you need to be able to stand out. And that's first and foremost. But secondly, the days of being discovered are long gone. You know, we're not in an American Idol world where someone's going to come and knock on your door and say, wow, you're super talented, we'd love to make you a star. Like, that doesn't happen. And so it takes an incredible amount of work. You know, sometimes I don't get a chance to sit down and just even catch my breath because I'm responding to emails and I'm, you know, ordering more merchandise or whatever the case might be. But it's always something. And I think that that's really important when it comes to, you know, I cannot stress enough that you cannot sit idly if this is something that you want to do. It does take a lot of work. And you have to be okay with the word no. Because for every yes that I've had, there have been maybe 500 no's. And so you just have to be okay with that and just understand that it's no right now, but it might be yes later, and move on and keep on going.
What are some of your thoughts on other ways the industry has changed over the years? You know, COVID was a tough one, no doubt. But you know, in terms of like streaming services, you're not really counting on album sales as much anymore.
Yeah. One of the things that has been a real big change since I first released my very first album many years ago was the album cycles. You used to get between, you know, 18 to 24 months out of an album cycle, and now you get like 5 minutes. So, you know, you mentioned that I released an album last year. I have never released albums back to back in any given year. This is the first time I've ever done it, but it's because everything is moving so quickly. People are consuming music so quickly that if you're not keeping up and if you're not putting out new content and releasing new music, then you become less and less relevant.
I'm bad for that too. Every tonight I'll be 11 o'clock waiting to see what new music arrives, but I'm streaming your album in my pocket right now on
Yay.
silent. So as we mentioned, you're playing some shows in Nashville coming up, including Americana Fest, which is being headlined by Nico Case and Waxahachie. Holy, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
How exciting is it? You've been to Nashville before and done some stuff down there.
Yeah, I've been to Nashville a handful of times over the years. You know, there's just something really special about the energy in that city. As crazy as Broadway is and as crazy as it's become, there's still something that's really unique and special that, you know, when you go there, for me at least, I'm always humbled, you know, because sometimes you can kind of get in your own little zone here in Canada and think, you know, wow, I'm really doing great for myself. And then you get down there and you hear these incredible vocalists and these incredible songs, and you're like, oh, I still have a lot of work to do. I'm not really as good as I think I might be. So that's first and foremost. But secondly, you know, just everybody there has common interests, virtually everybody. And everybody, almost everybody you encounter is, you know, working in the music industry in some way, shape, or form, whether they're an artist or, you know, an industry person. And so just having that commonality right out of the gate is pretty cool.
I've never been to Nashville, been dying to go, so when it comes down to Dauphin or Nashville, it's going to be a tough flip of the coin. Desiree, as we mentioned in the intro, you're also a lawyer on top of all this, called to the bar 25 years ago.
No, not 25 years ago.
25? 2009, right?
That's not 25 years ago.
Oh, this is why I'm in TV.
You're aging me.
15 years ago?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I'm terrible with math. But can you tell us, you know, about your practice and why law was something that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, so I started, I'd always wanted to be a lawyer. When I was in high school, I remember meeting with my guidance counselor and asking about, you know, what law was like. And she looked at me and she said, you know, you're not a strong enough student. You should consider something else. And I was never a straight A+ student. I was, you know, B plus A. But I was a pretty average, maybe a bit above average, but not, you know, like I said, I didn't have straight A's. And I started off in social work, and I did a year in that faculty, and I absolutely hated it. And so I dropped out. I phoned my mom, and I said, I quit school. And she said, what did you do? And she kind of, you know, yelled at me, and I said, no, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not for me. And I worked for a year as a social worker, and I did social work up in Shamattawa First Nation, which is in a very remote First Nation in Manitoba. And I was a child and family services worker, and I saw a lot of the inequities that the folks in that community faced, and that was really what inspired me to go to law school. So I applied and I got accepted, and I graduated, contrary to your assertion that it was 25 years ago, I graduated in 2008. And I've been working in child protection ever since. Yeah, I call it my heart work.
Yeah. Well, awesome stuff. I graduated grade 12 math on a reread, as you can tell. Much more to come here with Desiree, including a performance. We just have to step aside for one last quick break. Stick around. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week has been singer, songwriter, and lawyer Desiree Dorion. And we're going to wrap up the show this week with a performance by Desiree and Leroy Constant. They're going to take us out tonight. You can get Desiree's new album, Remember Your Name Now, wherever you purchase your music. Our thanks again to Desiree and Leroy for joining us this week on Face to Face, and good luck on the road. Here they are now with the new song, Ghost.
Don't wanna see your face, don't wanna hear your name, don't wanna go where you go, just in case. Don't wanna feel you there, don't wanna breathe the same air. You're not gonna haunt me, I ain't gonna be scared by your ghost. Oh, oh, oh. No. Burned a picture of us since our love went up in smoke. Changed all the stations you had programmed on the radio. I got an axe tattoo and dyed my hair cherry red. I'm never taking back the last words I said. Don't wanna see your face, don't wanna hear your name, don't wanna go where you go, just in case. Don't wanna feel you there, don't wanna breathe the same air. You're not gonna haunt me, I ain't gonna be scared by your ghost. Oh, oh, oh. No, oh, 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 oh. My mama thinks that I've completely went and lost my mind. I do what I want now that your hand ain't holding back mine. Call it a first, I finally had a one-night stand. Don't know his name, but I do it all again. Don't wanna see your face, don't wanna hear your name, don't wanna go where you go, just in case. Don't wanna feel you there, don't wanna breathe the same air. You're not gonna haunt me, I ain't gonna be scared by your ghost.